Hi, everybody. I'm Ruthie Andrews of Kyrie Coaching, back with you again to share about the Mazzaroth today. The Mazzaroth, the big wheel in the sky. And we're going to be talking about what Luciferians do not want you to know. I'm going to be dropping quite a bit of information today, and we're going to dive off into the deep end. I have seen Christians playing around with the Mazzaroth, thinking that they can align with it, thinking that it even shares the gospel, thinking that they can play a little bit with astrology and that it might be okay. And that because the Mazzaroth is mentioned in the Old Testament, that perhaps it gives a bit of permission, if you will, to kind of play on that end of the pool. But I'm here to tell you that the answer is absolutely no, and you're absolutely playing with fire. So here we go, everybody. Yes, there is a giant wheel in the sky. The constellations, literally, Pisces, Libra, Leo, Gemini, Aquarius, they're absolutely all set up in a circular system. This truly is the astrology wheel. People tell their futures by it. People think that they can find their best love life by hearkening to it. They think that they can understand how many children that they might have, predict the future in so many ways. That's really how it's been used. Pulling power from the Mazzaroth in order to dictate your time, pulling power from the Mazzaroth in order to think that you can somehow command your future in some way, shape, or form. But really, it absolutely is playing with fire. Also, if you definitely look at the construction of the Mazzaroth, the constellation wheel, it truly is in the shape of a wheel around the earth. We live in the Milky Way, and this constellation system absolutely encirculates the entire Milky Way system, that entire galaxy. We are encapsulated and enthroned in this. It really is kind of Satan's way, if you will, of trying to entrap humanity in and on this planet and a way to dictate our time. And again, it's really important to understand this physically. The constellation wheel is physically in the shape of a wheel around the entire system, the galaxy in which we live. This has been talked about, sung about, understood for eons, for centuries. If you go back 40, 45 years ago to when Journey was singing about this, the wheel in the sky keeps on turning, Journey wrote an entire song about it. And it's really sad. If you go back and actually read the lyrics, there's a guy on a journey. There's a guy who doesn't know where he's going to be tomorrow. Why? The wheel manages your time. This person literally can't determine in the song what he's going to be doing tomorrow because the wheel is absolutely in charge of what's happening for him. The wheel is dictating. He's not dictating of his own free choice and will. The wheel is dictating for him. This is a very dangerous thing. There are a number of dangerous assumptions that I have seen Christians making when it comes to the stars, the constellations, the systems in the sky. They honestly think that because the Father hung a star in a certain position, that that's just the way that it's supposed to be. And if that's where it is, then surely it's of the Father. Guys, I can take my lip gloss and put it here. But if the enemy decides that he wants to take it away, and if I give up a legal right to it, guess what? Somebody else can come along and move it over here. Don't make an assumption that because a star is hung where it's at, that somehow the Father is just in control of it. In fact, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. We know that. Why would the stars or the constellation systems be outside of what the enemy is trying to attain or graft onto or lock into in order to wreak havoc or to create confusion and chaos? In fact, absolutely, the enemy has certainly messed with the skies, the constellation systems. And in fact, we're going to go into this even a little bit more. I think you're going to be shocked at what the constellations actually are as we're grafting into this understanding a little bit more. But the Mazzaroth is not functioning as it should be. In fact, it was moved into position, into the wheel formation that it is, by the enemy himself. It was not moved there by the Father. This is not of the Father's free will or doing. Guys, stars are made of hydrogen and helium. Stars are about 75% hydrogen and about 25% helium. And if you understand how the periodic table of elements work, You can take those formations of gases and make stars of your own accord. You can take the noxious and the stable and noble gases, if you will, of the star systems and create and move and mold and shape. You can take physics systems, stoichiometric mathematics systems, and you can convert mass to matter, matter to mass. You don't have to be of the Father. You can take his designed in mathematic and physical systems and shape, morph, move, twist, and manipulate them at will. That is absolutely what the enemy has done here. What's true is that the enemy has absolutely moved systems that the Father put into place. The enemy has taken the periodic table of elements and is absolutely manipulated. He's taken operations of chemistry and operations of physics and mathematics and shifted it to be of his own accord and dictation, to entrap and encapsulate time. That is absolutely what's going on here. Because the Father set star systems in place does not mean that those star systems are where he originally designed or set them or what his original intentions were. Don't make assumptions, be aware. And of course, I'm going to challenge you today that as I'm walking through some of this information, that you absolutely need to be taking this back to the Father. Run back to the Father, to Holy Spirit and Yeshua with it and ask them, is what Ruthie said today true? Is this true, Heavenly Father, that you put star systems in place, but the enemy moved them? What happened with this? Please give me a little bit more information. That is going to be your ultimate source and authority. And again, yes, we know that the Mazzaroth is mentioned in the Old Testament. This has really come to light in the last few years. I've seen a lot of Christians in our regions and realms and operating in higher healing modalities really lock into this. Yes, in Job 38:32, the Mazzaroth is mentioned. Canst thou bring forth the Mazzaroth in his season? But look at the construction of how this verse is written. It's really a rhetorical question. The Father is asking, do you think that you're strong enough? Do you think that you can do you think that you can morph or move? Do you think that you can do something with the Mazzaroth, bring it forth? Do you think that? So the Mazzaroth is a strong system. It's a powerful constellation wheel that is absolutely being operated by the enemy at this point. We're going to, again, take a look at that a little bit further, everybody. But this is not a challenge to Christians to go play ball with it. This is a challenge to say, whoa, hearken, pull back, take a second look at this. This is perhaps not what you think that it is. Take a second look. Are you powerful enough to play with it? And if the answer is no, what are you doing? What are you doing? So the Mazzaroth, what is it exactly? Here's going to be some mic drops and bomb drops for some of you. The constellations, guys, here's what happened. They are absolutely angels that fell with Lucifer. Yeah, you just heard me say that. They are angels that fell with Lucifer. They didn't want to be with the Father any longer. And keep in mind that these are angels that know so much about scientific systems, how the heavens operate. Again, the periodic table of elements, you've heard me say that today. They understand stoichiometry, which is a system of math, again, that moves matter to mass and mass to matter through different mathematical conversions. They had been sitting with the Father for eons. They understood how physics works at a deep level. So when they fell, they knew that they could transfigurate into another mass or energetic or matter system. And that's exactly what they did. They literally use mathematical systems and physics systems to move into a different form, which is of the constellations. Pisces, Libra, Leo, Gemini, the twins, they are all fallen angels. And the angelic hosts now that are with the Father do not hold them in high regard or of high accord. They don't interact with them. They don't take any commands or controls with them. They absolutely operate completely separately and apart from the Mazzaroth. The systems of the heavenlies, the angelic host, the Father and Yeshua, do not operate with the Mazzaroth. And if they're not operating with the Mazzaroth, why are you? The Mazzaroth is absolutely also a wheel of time. It's been spoken about a wheel of time again throughout the centuries and eons and ages. It absolutely operates like a clock. The face of the Mazzaroth is a clock face. You can take our clock here on planet Earth and interface it over the face of the Mazzaroth. The Mazzaroth controls the time of planet Earth. This is huge, everybody. It controls our time. If you are caught up in the constellations, if you are caught up in the systems and of the wheels of the Mazzaroth is actually wheels within wheels. That's also mentioned in the Old Testament. You are absolutely caught up in time systems that will be repeating kind of like Groundhog Day. It's nauseating. It's like being on a roller coaster ride. It's awful. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Amazon actually made a series about this called The Wheel of Time. And you can see so many different images of the Mazzaroth and the astrology wheel and of our time being locked up here on Earth with the Mazzaroth throughout that entire series. I'm just giving you a few examples here. Cyndi Lauper sung about this back in the 80s in her song Time After Time. Lying on my bed, I hear the clock tick. The Mazzaroth face, the clock tick, and I think of you. Who is she thinking about? Who do you think? She's caught up in circles, wheels, caught up in circles. Confusion. Who is the author of confusion? Oh, that's absolutely confusion. Cyndi Lauper says, confusion. I'm caught up in confusion. I'm having flashbacks. What's a flashback? When you go back in time and you replay a trauma over and over again. She's singing about she's left behind. She can't keep up. There's suitcases of memories that she's trying to bring with her. And it's happening time after time after time. She's caught up. She's in a trap or a loop. Again, like a Groundhog Day. She's stuck. It's an awful place to be, folks, when you're caught up in a time system that the enemy has grabbed a hold of what you should be in charge of. We as Christians are actually mandated and are supposed to be in charge of our time. Our time is actually alive. It operates like a fabric. You should be able to shape it, move it, morph it, have it operate for you. But in fact, if you're caught up in the Mazzaroth, you will find yourself again cycling back through systems and old ways and means of being that are not of the Father, that keep people trapped in their trauma, trapped in their hurt and pain, and trapped in confusion. Again, it's a horrible place to be. We also see that Leanne Womack sang about this in I Hope You Dance. It's a song that is insanely popular, sung at how many weddings and graduations, right? It's supposed to be a song of celebration, but I'm going to challenge you. Go back and reread the lyrics, everybody. On the chorus, Leanne Womack sings over and over, I hope you dance, I hope you dance. But the background singers are singing a refrain that says, time is a wheel in constant motion, always rolling us along. Time is a wheel in constant motion, always rolling us along, as if you're not in charge, as if you don't have free will, and as if you are not supposed to be mandating and dictating your time. And again, if you go back and actually think through and read through the lyrics of Leanne Womack's song, I Hope You Dance, she says, I hope you never fear those mountains in the distance. Think about that for a moment. Instead of saying, don't fear, I don't want you to fear, she says, I hope you never fear, as if you're going to have fear. And she's just she's just throwing it out there to you. Oh, I hope you don't, knowing that you will if you're caught up in this wheel of time. And then she says, never settle for the path of least resistance, as if something is supposed to be hard or treacherous or difficult. It's almost a curse that she's throwing out there to you in this song. This song is not the happy butterflies and rainbows and Lucky Charms song that you thought that it was. Go back and read the lyrics, knowing that she's slamming down a curse in terms of being caught up in a wheel of time. And she, as you're singing this song over and over and over again, as so many of us have, I know that I have been in that place where I have been bopping along in the car singing to this song, right? I hope you dance, I hope you dance. But how many of us have sung that refrain, time is a wheel in constant motion, always rolling us along, not recognizing that you're literally speaking that out over your person over and over and over again as you're singing the song. How many times have we heard this on the radio? It was replayed. It's been replayed thousands of times. Oh, what a mess. There are so many entities, groups, and people that want to use the Mazzaroth for its power. It's a powerful system. That wheel moving back and forth, that wheel in its circular motion, it's an energy generator. It's a portal system. It's moving massive amounts of energy as those nebulas are pumping out baby star systems, as those black holes are coming into existence and then dying off again. There's masses of energetic power. And there's absolutely huge groups of people that want to lock up into that constellation system and use that power of their own accord and to lock it down into systems to keep people encapsulated and entrapped here on this earth. Freemasons, witches use the constellation systems all the time to land hexes, curses, incantations, spells, vexes, smotes, enchantments, jinxes. They entrap people with it, everybody. And this is actually, the constellation system is the basis of black magic. I hope that you get that from me today. The constellation system, the Mazzaroth, is the hallmark, the base system of black magic. That is literally where sorcerers get the mathematical hijinks in order to maneuver landing curses and pushing energy and actually converting energy in order to lock people up into entrapment schemes. It's a hot mess, everybody. I also want to, before we go any further, this is going to be a massive key for you all. The constellation system, the wheel system, the Mazzaroth, it's actually not complete. It's actually broken. There's a section broken out of the bottom. I know that it's often shown as being an entire wheel system that's whole and flush, but that's not the case. There's a section that's broken out of the bottom, and it's actually quite well known. It actually also doesn't flow in an entire circle. It will move to the right, and then it will flex back and move back to the left. It moves back and forth like this. It doesn't move in an entire clock face. The Father will not allow that Mazzaroth to be completed in that bottom section. It's of his own dictation. It's of his own will. He doesn't want for it to be completed, for if it were, it would be even more crazily powerful than it is now. So oftentimes when you're looking at symbolism, at logos, we're going to take a look at a lot of logos today, you're going to see where there's a section broken out on one side or at the bottom, which is actually factually correct. You see this in the Infinity logo for the cars that they make. Horseshoes are often also a common representation of the Mazzaroth, or that astrology constellation wheel system. And so you see, again, it's incomplete at the bottom. Something to think about as we're looking at some of these logos in the symbolism today. So again, the Omega symbol that you see oftentimes with fraternities and sororities on college campuses. Omega means that there's something that has no end. We know that the Father has no end, right? But Luciferians who are seeking to live eternally and seek immortality apart from a savior, apart from Yeshua, they have locked onto this Omega belief system, using the constellation system as a way to try to gain immortality, to live forever, to be your own little g gods apart from the Father and apart from Yeshua. Again, another logo that I wanted to just give as an example today was Promac. It's a company that makes alternators for F1 Formula One cars, and as well GP, the superbike motorcycles that they use in the GP races, GP bikes. You see this in Formula One, Formula Two, Formula Three. You will see this in Moto 2, Moto 3, and Moto GP. You'll see that the drivers have Promac on their suits, and as well prominently displayed on the Formula One cars for sure. But you can see the constellation wheel system in the logo, but it's broken out at the bottom, and you can see it very much looks like that Omega. Again, an organization that is hearkening to the constellation, and that's where they're pulling their power. And man, we're going to go through a number of different logos today, but I really want for you to get a sense that there's so many groups of people, Luciferians and high-level Freemasons, that show you, they're literally dictating to you where they get their power, who they're hearkening to, and what they're about. Look at the Constellation Wheel in NASA's logo. It's right there in front of you. That's what they're about, is locking up into the constellation system, drawing and pulling energy from the constellations and using the constellations for their own agendas. Boeing, who's a massive contractor for the Department of Defense and the government, making all kinds of mechanical sorts of things and systems of war, mechanical things that are used in war systems, machinery. They have all kinds of DoD contracts, obviously hearkening up into that constellation system. And you can see that there's a little check, a little hook out of the bottom. There's also some pieces about these logos that we're not going to go over today. These logos actually go pretty far in terms of symbolism. There's some pieces about the Milky Way that I'm actually going to try to maybe give you some understanding about that a little bit later on in my presentation today for you all. But man, there's a lot happening in these logos, but it's obvious from the outset here that you can absolutely see that they're truly locked up into the constellation system. And that's really what they're about. They're not about the Father, and they're definitely not about Yeshua. So looking a little bit further, again, you can see what companies, what they're about, who they're really hearkening to, what systems they're really all up into. Mercedes, you can see absolutely that it looks very similar to Google. You can see the 666 symbolism in it. Chanel, the Vesica Pisces. I'm just going to be honest here. We're going to go there. That Vesica Pisces is meant to show or to dictate sexual ritual with using a woman's vagina. That's what that fish is in the middle. That's exactly what it is. But you can see the broken constellation, the broken Mazzaroth on either side. That's really what they're about. Audi, that's another one that absolutely uses the constellation wheel and that sexual ritual, that Vesica Pisces, very common. They show you who they are, and they absolutely dictate and tell you that they are left-hand pathers. They are not at the right hand sitting with Yeshua at the right hand of the Father. They are absolutely what they call left-hand pathers. That's truly what they're about, and they will absolutely show and dictate to you. It's just up to you to recognize and realize what it is that you're looking at. A few more for you all today. The Trilateral Commission. The 13 lines are the lines that run high-level Freemasonry and are of the major Federal Reserve and banking systems around the world. Those 13 lines, the Rockefellers, the Chase Manhattan Bank, the Rothschilds, they are of Bilderberg. They are of the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations. They are of the Trilateral Commission. The most dark organizations on the planet. You can tell by their logos that they are of the constellation, they are of the Mazzaroth, and that's absolutely where they're pulling their energy and where they are portaling through in order to lock in entities that are literally funneling to them in order to power them up. That's literally what is charging them. Oh, you can see it. Here's a few more for you. Summersby, HAM, Wisdom Guardian. You can absolutely see the wheel and the wheel system in the Mazzaroth, even the broken wheel in some of these logos. Take a second look. You can absolutely press pause, look a little bit longer, but you can start to get a feel of what you're really looking at. These are the Freemasons that kind of are in charge, that run the planet at this point in time, and that are dictating people's time. Again, hot mess. And just a few more for you all before we pass along. The Wagon Wheel Wood Company, Wagon Wheel Exploration, obviously Google, that's an easy peasy one. That's a softball one for you all, by the way. And I'm sure that most of you know that there's a 666 locked up in that Google, that Google symbol as well. Before we press a little bit further, everybody, I really want to give you an understanding that it's not just logos and symbolism. That's all fun to look at. It's interesting to look at, but it's also critical that we understand that there are absolutely massive ritual systems that are used on planet Earth in order to also lock up into these constellations. There are ritual sites around the planet where there either are land masses that have been formed or shaped to look like certain constellation systems, or massive rock structures that are laid out in patterns of the constellations themselves that resemble or look like the wheel or a constellation in order to shape and move and shift energy back and forth. These are ritual sites. They're literally all over planet Earth, and it's critical that you understand what you are looking at. Oftentimes on vacation, people will want to go see these, thinking that they are just an ancient historical site and not realizing what you're actually looking at or what the site is actually about, that it really is about the Mazzaroth. It's about landing an entrapment scheme here on planet Earth. And it truly is an actual ritual site that was used as such in the past, but also very much now. So here's a few of these. Stonehenge is the most, again, obvious softball throw one. You can see the broken wheel on one side. And if you pull out and do an aerial view from above, you can also absolutely see that this is a wheel within a wheel system, which again is mentioned in the Old Testament. Those individual constellations on the inside of the Mazzaroth are their own wheel. Here's a key, everybody, for you all. Wheels don't have to be perfectly round. Yeah, I just said that. Wheels don't have to be perfectly round. They can still move in a star track system. That's actually what the angelic host call them. And they are their own wheel moving in a system that is a wheel within a wheel. You can see this replicated here in the Stonehenge ancient historical ritual witchcraft site. Oh, the energy from this, everybody, will just pummel you. And if you have actually been to one of these historic ancient sites, you might consider going through a series of orders from the courts of heaven in order to dispel the energy off and away from you that you may have picked up while you were at one of these locations. Here's a few more. Machu Picchu in Peru, the Gothic Circle in Germany, and as well Gölbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey. Again, all of these were literally constructed to look and to be energetically just like certain constellation systems or the entire constellation wheel itself. Again, ancient ritual, massive energetic flux moving back and forth, and really an entrapment scheme for planet Earth. And by the way, these are all strategically in locations around planet Earth itself to also, again, if you were to get an aerial view of all of planet Earth, and we're going to take a look at this in a minute, those are set up to also then look like the constellations themselves. Again, a wheel within a wheel system. Think about that for a minute. You've got to go start small and then go big. The Medicine Wheel in Wyoming is another one of these. I grew up in northern Wyoming, actually just at the base of the mountain where this wheel system is, that was made by the natives, the Native Americans. 1 or 2 days a year, I can't remember which it is, but 1 or 2 days a year, there's a certain position that the sun is in where it will hit the very middle of that wheel system and light the whole thing up. It's insane. And there are cars for days that will drive up to the medicine wheel on that certain day of the year. It's on a solstice day in order to catch the rays of the sun and to be a part of the ritual that's going on, and photographers will flock there. I definitely went there as a kid to see. It's at the very, very tippy top of the mountain. It's kind of treacherous. The road to get up there is pretty crazy. So good luck with that if you ever decide that you're going to go. But again, in having a conversation about that, actually recently, I was warned that, hey, you need to go get some orders from the courts of heaven to remove that energetically from yourself. So again, just kind of a fair warning for some of you who may be looking at this today and who may have showed up at one of these sites at one point on a vacation thinking that it was just all fun and games, when that's not what's going on here. So a few more of these. The Nubian Pyramids in Sudan, again, if you get an aerial view, this is very much in kind of a broken wheel structure. Those pyramids are definitely set up in that wheel system. There's also pyramids all over planet Earth that are under the ocean. Some of these are massive. They're huge. How did they get there? That's a whole other conversation, everybody, but they're definitely there. And so if you were to, again, pull out and get an aerial view, over all of where these structures are, where their locations are. Look at this bottom picture that I have here that shows the constellations, literally where these different structures are. They literally are there to recreate the wheel itself on the face of planet Earth. They literally are in the formation and are in the structure themselves of those constellations here on Earth, on and in a ley line system, again, creating a massive entrapment scheme for this planet. Why would you want to be locked up into the Mazzaroth? Why would you want to be hearkening up into it? Why, if you know that your time is being dictated by these systems, why would you want to be caught up in that level of confusion? This really is a scheme by the enemy. And it's not just these land structures or these rock structure formations that have been set in certain positions on the face of the earth. It also is in buildings. It also is very much an architectural structure. Look at the Capitol. Look at how that Capitol is absolutely set up in that Mazzaroth system, where people are sitting in position in the United States Congress. You can literally see the broken wheel system in where they're sitting, and the president being in that middle Milky Way sun, and then having all of those constellation kind of wheels within wheels exiting from the outside. Woo, wow. You can start to see the layers of entrapment and the layers of the wheels within wheels that have been placed here on this earth in order to keep people trapped and stuck. The US seal, look at the top of the seal, the star with that cloud wheel system around it. You can absolutely see where those old Freemasons, where they were wanting to pull their power. And it's not just that star and cloud kind of Mazzaroth wheel that you can see at the top of the seal there. Look at the outside of the seal. It's a wheel within a wheel. Again, another layer of entrapment. This is absolutely where they had intended and wanted the United States to be pulling its power, from the constellation systems and not from the Father or Yeshua. The Knights of the Round Table, who are they hearkening to? You can see in the picture on the wall on the right here, it's hard to see, but if you were to pull in a little bit more, the Pisces fish, the Leo lion, the Gemini twins, they're absolutely in those little pictures on the background. And the knights themselves, they were not hearkening to the Father or Yeshua. They were not operating for the Father or Yeshua. They were absolutely operating for the constellations. Again, they were literally locked into their own wheel within a wheel system. United Nations, same idea, same thing. You can see literally the broken wheel in the structure of how they seat themselves, literally locking up into different constellations as they are in accord or in alignment. You can see in their different meeting rooms, they're absolutely set up to be wheel within wheel systems operating in alignment and in ritual structure with the constellations themselves. Guys, being caught up in the Mazzaroth is a really ugly and a vicious thing. It is a cycle that is hard to break once it gets started up. Your time is no longer your own. You are no longer dictating what you're in charge of. Your time is constructed to literally serve the enemy. You'll have a continual sense of being stuck and, again, looping like a Groundhog Day. You get to a certain point with your romantic relationships and they fall apart. You get to a certain point with your finances and all of a sudden it falls apart again, and you find yourself having to pay off debt time and again. You have a sense that the systems in your life, what should be final outcomes, are controlled by something else. You seem to never operate in the finalization of a matter, that something else is at hand. Yes, it's because you're caught up in a time system where something else is dictating your time. Something else has control over what should be of your own free will. That is not of the Father. We were warned about this in scripture. We were warned to not be caught up in these systems. 2 Kings 23:5 says, he did away with the idolatrous priests, whom the kings of Judah had appointed to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah and in the surrounding area of Jerusalem. Also, those who burned incense to Baal, to the sun and to the moon and to the constellations and to all the host of heaven. Burn them up. Don't want anything to do with them. And then again, Isaiah 47:13-14 says, behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Again, it's a challenge. Don't let these monthly prognosticators dictate. Send them out. Don't be of their counsels. Don't be of the astrologers. This is not of the Father. It's not of Yeshua. The placement and the order of the Mazzaroth. This is critical to understand. The order of the wheel and the operation of the wheel is dictated by the enemy. He's the one literally driving the wheel. The enemy is very much in charge of the Mazzaroth. Yeshua will eventually be taking that on and absolutely will be taking on the Mazzaroth in a series of final battles, but that is not yet upon us. The wheel is in the position that it is for many reasons. It was chosen. There are angelic hosts that fell and that of their own accord and their own free will, they chose to be in that position. Those spinning wheels generate a ton of power and energy, just an absolute massive force. And those spinning wheels will shape time, position time, and also even generate time. You don't want to be in the time that they're generating. Absolutely not. And the time that the wheel generates, it is not of the Father. Absolutely not of the Father. So here's why the enemy likes Mazzaroth entrapment. He wants you to be stuck in the wheel. Yes, the enemy wants you to be stuck in the wheel. The wheel system will grind down into your genome. It won't just be that you are stuck up in the Mazzaroth or that your time will be stuck. Those wheel systems will get locked down in the churning of your cells and in the churning and the movement of your DNA. Your DNA, your genome is alive. It hears you, but it will hearken to the energy forces that form or shape it. And you will find your body operating and doing things that you don't want it to do. It will keep you distant from the truth. It will steal your time. Again, you'll feel like your time is not your own. And the wheel is the primary way by which your time will be stolen. And if your time is stolen, I want you to think about this in terms of the telomeres, the timekeepers that are down in your cells, that are down in your DNA. Those little timekeepers that are in your cells will be dictated by the Mazzaroth itself. They may shorten. You don't want your telomeres to be shortened. Absolutely not. They will lay waste to family lines. You'll find disease processes locking down into people's genetic lineages and down into their bloodlines, again, creating ruinous plots and absolutely twisting things for entire family lines that lock back up into star lines and star systems. Oh, those gaseous structures can really lay waste if you allow them to, and that is, again, not of the Father, it's not of Yeshua. I am going to set before you a couple of challenge considerations today. We've looked at a lot of things. We've looked at a lot of logos and symbolisms. We've looked at different buildings and structures and how these different groups of people absolutely tell you where they're locked up into. And I am going to be indicating a couple of things and laying a couple of pieces before you that I really want for you to take into consideration. We know a little bit about the Vesica Pisces, right? We learned about that today. And you can absolutely see in the focus on the family logo, a clear and blatant Vesica Pisces. And you can see a broken wheel that's interestingly the type of lettering that was chosen for focus on the family. That C absolutely looks like an omega. You can make your own judgments on this, but I just want to set this before you as a point of consideration that oftentimes what is considered to be Christian, what is oftentimes considered to be holy and true, may not be of the Father, may not be of Yeshua, and they may be telling you who and what they're actually about. Samaritan's Purse. You can absolutely see a constellation wheel here. And I'm absolutely also going to lay something else before you now and bring up a point that I made a little bit earlier. We're looking at a cross in the middle, or what you think is a cross in the middle of that Samaritan's Purse constellation wheel, right? I want you to take yourself out of your Christian framework for a minute and set aside your predisposed ideology about what you think you're looking at. You may not be looking at a cross. I want for you to consider an X and a Y axis on a vector point. That's it. That's all. Set aside the idea of a Christian cross and let's think about an X and a Y vector point. And I want you to go back to that NASA logo and look at that V. Think about that being in an X and a Y axis and about a vector point also being in the middle of that constellation wheel on that NASA logo that we already looked at today. I also then want to challenge you. Think about this in relation to a different logo that I didn't put up today. I'm going to think of it in a minute here. However, that X and Y vector axis point is actually star lines in the Milky Way. That is not the constellation wheel, but it's absolutely it's absolutely a hearkening to the Milky Way galaxy system that is in the middle of the constellation wheel. That's what you may be looking at. I'm not going to say that that's what you are looking at, but that may be what you are looking at. It may not be a Christian cross. It may absolutely be vector points of a different star system on the inside of a constellation wheel. Oh my, oh my. I am going to drop that other logo that I'm thinking about right now in my head, but I can't think of the name of it. I'm going to actually drop it down into, when I put this up on Facebook a little bit later on today, I'm going to drop that one down into the comment section for you all to take a look at. It will also be a challenge because you'll also see that X and Y axis on this particular logo system. And you'll see immediately, again, Freemasonic, Milky Way X and Y axis, vector point, and perhaps not a Christian cross. So here's a few parting thoughts that I want to leave you all with today. These are from a friend of mine. The Mazzaroth is not a safe place at all. If you were actually physically there, it would be insanely cold. It's a cold and not a warm place at all. It is physically, the environment would be physically almost intolerable to be there. It's not like being in a warm, generous, happy, lovely place like the heavenlies. It's not that at all. It's vile, it's cold, and it's full of disastrous things. There are black holes to fall through, literally on a just from a physical standpoint. There's black holes to fall through. There are nebulas with dangerous, nasty, horrible gases. Getting caught up in toxic, noxious gases that would literally be deadly to you. The Mazzaroth is not in joy, meaning I-N-J-O-Y, which is a frequency. It's not in joy at all. And if you find you or your family or your bloodline system has been caught up in the Mazzaroth, there's absolutely a way for you to get out. The last part on this, on the right-hand side of the slide here, shows an order system that you can work through in terms of going to the courts of heaven in order to exit and vacate yourself, your own person, and your family system out and away from the Mazzaroth so that you're not locked up into having something else dictate and control and entrap your time. The first order is an order to release. You're simply going to go get this from Yeshua's court and you're going to speak this out over your own being and over the entirety of your line. You're also then secondly going to go get an order to escape. You're literally vacating and escaping on this particular order from individual constellations. If you don't know which constellation you're locked up into, absolutely go to Yeshua and ask so that you can understand what verbiage to add into this particular order for your family and for you. And the last order is an order to obtain. You're literally speaking that you're obtaining freedom from the Mazzaroth itself for you and your line. I'm truly hopeful, and I know that a lot of you will be able to use these orders today in order to really help to create freedom for yourself and Yeshua for your own line. And honestly, That's what I really want for you all, to not be locked up into a system that is not of the Father, that is not of Yeshua, and for you to absolutely be free. Everybody, I'm so glad that I was able to share this with you all today. Honestly, I speak blessing over all of you. I'm absolutely going to have this up on Facebook and up on YouTube a little bit later on today. It was great to be able to share this with you all today. Blessings over all of you. Take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend.